I'll be talking about Abraham Lincoln today. Abraham Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States, serving from March 1861 until his assassination on April 1865. Abraham Lincoln was a major person in U.S. history because he changed the nation for the good. He fought for freedom of the slaves and he kept fighting until he got it. He was an honest man and very smart in politics and discussion about the economy. Coming from a poor family, he had to educate himself, but was very smart. Abraham Lincoln contributed a lot to the civil rights movement, even though he wasn't alive at that point, but he inspired it. Abraham Lincoln, he was the best president the U.S. has ever seen. In the fall of 1808, Thomas and Nancy Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln's parents, settled into this log cabin called Sinking Spring Farms. 2 months later, on February 12, 1809, Abraham Lincoln was born. His address today is 2995 Lincoln Farm Road, Hogan, Kentucky. Today, Lincoln's log cabin is an 86-acre historic site owned and preserved by the Illinois Preservation Agency District of Historic Sites. The site includes an accurate reproduction of the Lincoln's two-room cabin that was constructed on the original cabin in 1893 as a CCC, or Civilian Conservation Corps project. The original log cabin that Abraham Lincoln was reputed to have been born with is dismantled sometime before 1865. Local tradition held that some of the logs from the cabin were used in the construction of a nearby house. New York businessman A.W. Dennett purchased the Lincoln farm in 1894 and used the logs from his house in construction a cabin similar in appearance in the original cabin where Lincoln was born. Soon the cabin was dismantled and re-erected for exhibition in many cities. Eventually, the logs for the cabin, along with logs reputed to have belonged to Jefferson Davis's birthplace, and possibly a third cabin, were purchased by the Lincoln Farm Association, or LFA, which believed they had only acquired Lincoln logs. When workers tried to reconstruct the cabin, they discovered the problem. The LFA bought a one-room cabin similar to the one reconstructed by Dennett. When they rebuilt the cabin and placed it in the memorial building, its side made visitor circulation difficult. The LFA reduced the cabin size from 16 by 18 feet to 12 by 17 feet. At 6 feet 4 inches tall, Abraham Lincoln already towered most of his friends. He decided to stand out even more by wearing this long top hat. He acquired this top hat from J.Y. Davis, a Washington hat maker. He added a black band on the hat to represent his dead son, Willie. No one knows when he acquired the hat or how often he wore it, but the last time he wore it was on April 14, 1865. After Lincoln's assassination, the War Department preserved this hat and other material left at Ford's Theater. With permission of Mary Lincoln, his wife, the department gave it to the Patent Office, which in 1867 gave it to the Smithsonian Institute. Joseph Henry, the secretary at the Smithsonian, ordered his staff not to exhibit the hat or tell anyone they had it, and it was immediately placed at the basement storage because of the excitement. It wasn't until 1893 when the Smithsonian lent it to the Abraham Lincoln Memorial Association when everybody saw the hat. Today it is one of the institution's most treasured objects. President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1, 1863, as the nation was approaching its third year of bloody war. The proclamation declared that all persons held as slaves within the rebellious states are, and henceforth, shall be free. But the Emancipation Proclamation had a downside to it. It only applied to the states that seceded from the Union, leaving slavery untouched in the border states. It also expressly exempted parts of the Confederacy that had already been taken over Northern control. Over January 1st, 1863, every advance of federal troops expanded the District of Freedom. Furthermore, the proclamation announced that the acceptance of black men in the Union Army and Navy were accepted, enabling the liberated to become the liberators. By the end of the war, almost 200,000 black men, soldiers, and sailors had entered the Union and freedom. For the first days of Civil War, slaves had acted to protect their own freedom. The Emancipation Proclamation confirmed that their insistence to the world from the Union must become a war for freedom, add moral force to the United cause, and strengthen the Union both militarily and politically. As a milestone along the road to slavery's final destruction, the Emancipation Proclamation has assumed a place among the greatest documents of human freedom. After the hard battle at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, Abraham Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address on November 19, 1863, at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, 4.5 months after the Union armies defeated those of the Confederacy at the Battle of Gettysburg. His speech was short and few heard it, but they were overwhelmed. Even today it is known as the greatest speeches in U.S. history. The Battle of Gettysburg was a turning point in the Civil War, making the town a burial ground for over 7,500 soldiers. The cries of surviving family members welcomed the people in Lincoln's address at the construction of the 17 acres of cemetery. Its significant lies the fact that Lincoln's political sentiments readjust war effort and challenged the outcome and otherwise seemed in favor of the Copperheads. On account of much political rivalry, it was not a success at the time. In fact, lack of sufficient applause and newspaper indifference indicated that the speech was made at an unpredictable phase in American history. Mary Todd Lincoln was the loving wife of the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, and First Lady of the United States from 1861 to 1865. Mary Lincoln faced many personal difficulties made by political divisions within the nation. Her family was from a border state where slavery was permitted. In Kentucky, siblings not infrequently fought each other in the Civil War, and Mary's family was no exception. Several of her half-brothers served in the Civil War, and many were killed in action. And one full brother served as a surgeon. Mary, however, supported her husband all the way in his quest to save the Union and maintain a loyalty to his policies. Mary suffered from several headaches throughout her adult life, as well as depression. During her White House years, she also suffered a severe head injury in a carriage accident. Some scientists and historians think that Mary Todd Lincoln suffered from bipolar disorder. Before being elected president, Lincoln served as an Illinois legislator and lost an election for U.S. Senate to Stephen A. Douglas. Nevertheless, his fierce campaign earned him a nomination for the presidency. The first Republican president ever, Lincoln led the Union to victory in the Civil War and ended slavery in America. During the 4 years of the American Civil War, the president guided the North to victory and authored the Emancipation Proclamation, which was a major document and a major cause to the institution of slavery in the U.S. Lincoln was a thoughtful and soft-spoken man and used words to sparingly but to great effort. His brilliance was captured in the Gettysburg Address, in which he motivatedly related the ongoing Civil War to founding principles of America in less than 2 minutes. From 1863 to 1869, President Lincoln and Johnson took a moderate position designed to bring back the South back to normal as soon as possible, while the radical Republicans, as they call themselves, used Congress to block the president, impose harsh terms, and upgrade the rights and the freemen or ex-slaves. The president prevailed until the election of 1866, which enabled the radicals to take control of policy, remove from the power of ex-Confederates, and enfranchise of the freedmen. The freedmen became second-class citizens, while most Southern whites became embittered toward the North and formed the democratic, solid South. The deployment of the U.S. military was central to the establishment of Southern Reconstruction state governments and the suppression of violence against black and white voters. The assassination of the United States' 16th President, Abraham Lincoln, took place on Good Friday, April 14, 1865, as the American Civil War was basically at an end. The assassination occurred 5 days after the commanding general of the Army of Northern Virginia, Robert E. Lee, surrendered to the General Ulysses S. Grant at the Appomattox Courthouse. Lincoln was the first American president to be assassinated. The assassination was planned and carried out by well-known stage actor John Wilkes Booth. Lincoln was shot while watching Our American Cousin with his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., the night of April 14, 1865. He died earlier the next morning. Are there any more questions? Yes.
How tall was Abraham Lincoln again?
He was 6 feet 4 inches tall. He was recorded to be the tallest president in U.S. history. Any more questions?
What was the name of the theater that Abraham Lincoln got killed?
The theater was named Ford's Theater. Any more questions? Yes.
How many kids did Abraham Lincoln have?
He had 4 kids, but 3 of them died, and only 1 lived to adulthood. His name was Robert Lincoln. He died in 1922. Thank you. Abraham Lincoln contributed a lot to the Civil War by fighting for freeing the slaves and by contributing to shape the civil rights movement in the future. Abraham Lincoln was an honest man and very smart in politics and discussion about the economy. He was the greatest president the United States has ever seen and probably ever see. He kept fighting for freeing the slaves, and he kept fighting until he got it. He was a major and probably most important person the U.S. has ever seen. He had a huge impact on the United States from the moment he was born on February 12, 1809, from the moment he died on April 15, 1865. His actions helped shape the America we live in today. Thank you.